but good morning. You're so much
Good
more
morning.
than you're so
Thanks
much.
for having me.
You're so much more than that. But this is why we're here. You've got a very interesting story. But yeah, good morning, Renee. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Thanks to Jane for sharing my name with you and getting me here today. It's good to be able to share my story. It's actually a really special year this year because on August 11th it will have been a really big anniversary. So I'll have lived 19 years of my life with hearing and 19 years of my life profoundly deaf. So half and half. So it's a massive year, this one. I'm just trying to think about how I can celebrate without coronavirus getting in my way.
You could host a Zoom party. That'd be really fun. Oh man,
Yeah.
aren't we sick of them? Aren't we sick of them? Wow, milestones like that. I mean, they do get reflective. Is that what this moment is for you, coming up to the 19 years? And do you think back? Is it a distant memory profound deafness? What do we call it? Do we call it deafness?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess for the listeners, it's important to say that I can hear Troy today because of the technology that I wear. So I've got one cochlear implant that sits behind my left ear. And I am very lucky with technology. This is a Bluetooth device, so it connects straight to my iPad. So
Oh, right.
it comes like straight in, so it makes it much easier to hear. But in many situations, it's a very, very different story. But back to your question, I still remember the first anniversary. Like, I still remember that first year. It was like, wow, it's been a year. And then now to think that it's been 19, but in 19 years, a lot has happened.
Wow.
I still feel like I'm almost lucky for what I went through. And people will tell me that all the time. They'll say, oh, you're so lucky, you just lost your hearing. And it's like, but you've still got yours. How's that lucky? But the different comments and all that kind of thing, that just makes my journey what it is.
Yep.
So it's certainly there's been some really challenging times, and then some that have just been absolutely rewarding. So if anyone's read the blurb, I have represented Australia twice at the Deaf Olympic Games and at a World Championship. So had I not have lost my hearing, I wouldn't have had those opportunities. And
yeah.
Yes, that's been incredible.
So what was life like for you? Give us a snapshot of where you're at before you got minorly ill. I mean, meningococcal is still quite serious, but, compared to what you were faced pretty soon after, it's pretty...
Yeah, so
pretty
I for as long as I could remember, I wanted to be a hairdresser. So I'd been doing a hairdressing apprenticeship as soon as I'd left. When I finished school, I did VCE, and I was going to go. I got offered an apprenticeship at the end of year 11, and Mum and Dad encouraged me to do year 12, and I'm grateful for that now. And then I dived straight in and I was a third year hairdressing apprentice at the time, and yeah, no warnings for it or anything. So I did go back after some time, after recovery and after having my cochlear implant surgery, but everything about it was so different. So like when you go into a hairdressing salon, obviously the main reason people go, yeah, they want to get their hair done, but they also want to chat and have a good conversation and, let off all their steam, and communicating was just a biggest a part. And I just found it like really challenging with, hair dryers and music and other people. And I guess like it was just really different. Like I tried to kind of get up and continue the journey that I was on, and it just wasn't like that. So I qualified, and then I had a bit of a break from hairdressing. And then, that's when my path definitely started to take a completely different track. So I studied Auslan, so Australian Sign Language. I did a diploma in the language for 2 years, so full time for 2 years.
Yep.
So not just the vocab, but the linguistics and the history, and then I went on and did my teaching degree and my Masters of Education. So completely different career to what I first originally thought.
I'm trying to think of things that you may not have asked, but maybe some of the most obvious ones. are important too. Did your hearing gradually, looking back, was it gradual or was it quick? Can you explain how it all started unfolding and when you started to go, hey, I'm not coming back from this?
Yeah, sure. I was almost thinking, oh, should I read chapter 2 out of my published autobiography?
Yeah.
I'll leave that for the listeners to,
Cool.
if they want to have a read.
We'd love to talk about the book later.
It was quick, but I guess a little bit slow as well. So on the Friday night, I started to feel sick, and it was just like, I felt sick in the tummy and had a bit of a headache. And I was with my twin sister at a party, so she drove us home, and I just got a bucket and put myself to bed and set my alarm to get up to work in the salon on the Saturday morning. And I woke up on the Saturday with like really sore joints and just feeling awful. And I called my boss and I said, I can't come in today. And one of the other hairdressers was away. She said, you have to, and just come in and do the clients that you need to.
Yeah.
And then, head off. So I made it to the salon. I don't even know, like, all this is very like vague and blurry, but I made it there, drove there. By this stage I was walking like, almost like I was drunk. So I was definitely.
So your balance was off.
Yeah. Not as bad as the next day, but yeah,
Sure.
It was starting to. Anyway, I made it through. One of my clients didn't show up. One of my clients rang and cancelled, and the other client was a friend, and she just said, why didn't you let me know? Like, go home. So
Yeah.
I drove home. I was 10 minutes from home, and I stopped about 3 times just because I thought I was going to throw up. I was just feeling so sick, and managed to get home and literally walked up the stairs and climbed straight into bed.
Wow.
And that Saturday afternoon, Mum came in and she said, I think we should, go over and see a doctor that was on call. And she rang in. The doctor met us at the clinic, and he checked me out and checked if I was photophobic and lots of different things, but just felt like I had a virus, and sent me home with some Panadine Fort and just said to Mum, keep an eye on her skin to see if a rash appears, because that's, like he wasn't saying that he thought it was meningococcal, but, just something to look out for. So we did all that. Mum got some dry biscuits and some lemonade, and we went home. And
Classic mum.
Yeah, always awesome. I now give them to my daughter. I stare out all the bubbles out of them.
You gotta have it flat.
But it makes you feel better. It really works. So yeah, like from this time, like, it's all like really, when you're unwell and it's just a bit hazy, and so I just was in bed, and Mum was trying to get me to eat, but just wasn't interested. And then on the Sunday morning, I woke up and I couldn't hear myself or anyone else
at all.
Nothing.
What was the first thing that, like, were you just like, wow, the house is really quiet? And then
So Mum and Dad and my sister were all in my room talking.
Oh wow! And you can see their mouth move, and you can't see any noise.
I was just like, I was sick as well. So, like, it was all a bit like, not just like, it's not like I've just woken up and I'm like, I'm feeling fine. Like, I was very, very out of it to a degree, but I was like saying, I can't hear you. Like, I was yelling because I didn't know, how to project my voice. I can't hear you. And they were obviously concerned then. So Mum phoned the doctor that we'd seen that day, the day before, and he's sent us straight into Geelong Hospital emergency. Yeah.
Could you hear yourself?
No.
So there's no audio anywhere around your ears?
No.
That is frightening.
Yeah.
And it's something that you muck around with your mates. Go, imagine losing your hearing and having it. Okay, can you answer this? Oh, you can't, because you're not the other. Losing your hearing and having heard, or losing your hearing from birth, are they anything comparable?
Oh, I can't imagine. Like,
both are pretty different and hard.
Like for me, like when I then got my cochlea, obviously, like, I knew what something sounded like, so I was able to like remember that and kind of train myself again. But for people that have never had hearing, like, you know,
Yep.
it's
Yeah, of course, of course.
you know, every level of a hearing loss, you know, or deafness, or it's so varied. Like when you see an audiogram, like everyone is so different. Like it's
Can you explain that?
Even I work at a school with students that have cochlears, and I'm always still thinking, I wonder what it sounds like for them. Like, you know, does it sound the same as what it does for me? Like,
can you explain that in just a little bit of detail? Give me like a range of differences. Like when you say there's so much varying range.
Yeah, so you know, some people wear hearing aids and some people wear cochlear implants. So you only have a cochlear implant if you're profoundly deaf, like you've either got like barely any actual hearing left, or none really. You have to kind of qualify, like they don't just put them on anyone.
Yes.
And then if you've got a hearing loss, you know, you might have a mild or a moderate hearing loss, you have hearing aids, and hearing aids amplify natural hearing. So my hearing with a cochlear implant is completely different. So probably the best, well, it's not really the best because it still doesn't make sense. But when I got what they call switched on, so straight like 2 weeks after my surgery, I got my external processor piece. I was in the room with audiologist mum, dad, and my sister, and everyone sounded the same, and everyone sounded like Daffy Duck. So I'd gone from 19 years of hearing to having this and going, yeah, now, like, you know, I'll be able to hear again. Obviously, I didn't understand how that was going to be.
Wow.
But it was really technical, like, you know, and then it just took time I got mapped every couple of weeks where I got plugged into the computer and they just mapped my sound, like my volumes. And then it was like monthly. And then, you know, now I go every 5 years because my hearing just hasn't changed. Like they've found a program that suits me, but it was having that 19 years of hearing was very beneficial for me to be able to, you know, remember sounds. Yeah, but so absolutely bizarre. Like this was my dad who did not sound like my dad, etc.
Weird. Loads of weird things going on, probably way more microscopic than what we can even imagine. I think those kind of traumatic situations can really be broken down into hundreds of chapters. Only you can understand them in its properness. Had you spent much time in hospital before that moment?
When I was first sick, I was in.
Hospital for you, was that a new thing? Are you familiar with hospitals?
I had my appendix out when I was in grade 4.
Yeah, right.
Out of the three of us, so I've got a twin sister and an older brother. No. I'm the one I'm the trouble child. And I've passed that on to my youngest daughter who had surgery last week for the first time at 2.
Oh, right.
I'm for a long one with her.
I hope there's not too much karma.
So yeah, like as far as, you know, like I was 19, so I knew that what hospitals kind of meant most of the time. But as far as that was okay, like because I had people visiting and mum and dad were always close by. But one quite scary thing was I had, like, they were testing my hearing every day, and like I had an MRI one day and I wasn't asleep when I went in, but I must have like drifted off to sleep, and I woke up in there and I was like, you know, like, where am I? I was really like blown away, and I was banging on the walls, and then I was trying to jump off the bed. It was almost like I was like having a nightmare, but it was really happening. Right. So that was a bit scary, but like I don't really remember my ICU days very much, just that when, because no one could really visit me there, but when mum did come in, I was like, hi, how are you? Like, and they're like,
keep it down. You're like, how do you keep it down? How do you can't even guess how low to go down? Go how far now?
So I was at home for 3 months before I had my surgery. So I kind of just like, I picked up lip reading really quickly, and I just kind of could start to feel, you know, what it felt like. It's really weird. Like because now, like, if I don't have my cochlear on, I can't hear anything at all. So there's a lot of times that I can't hear, but I can tell how loud, like I can feel how loud I'm speaking. But obviously, like,
Yes.
day 2, I had no idea what I was doing.
Fascinating. Do you take your cochlear implant out?
Yeah, so I don't sleep with it, and it can't get wet. So, like, when I go wakeboarding and snowboarding, I don't wear it. I won't wear it when I'm showering or I've got wet hair. So yeah, there's lots of times that I don't. I run. Sometimes I run with it, and sometimes I run without it. It's like almost like being able to choose if I want to be in a silent world or not.
I don't want to glorify that option, but sometimes I wouldn't mind being like, sorry, I can't hear you. I'm having a break. But it's very rude.
You could say that I use it, abuse it, or use it to my advantage, I guess, at times.
Yeah.
One more time of you two carrying on and I'm going to switch off. So I've got Harper, who's nearly 4, and she's quite aware now of that I can't hear when I don't have my implant. Like, in the morning she goes to get it for me so that she can give it to me to tell me that she's hungry.
Yeah,
but she's actually started to sign a lot more. So she'll just come in and she'll say, Mummy, Bluey. I'm like, no, I'm not putting Bluey on.
Were you quite sporty before this moment? Were you?
Yeah, so I played basketball, like, you know, as a kid and growing up. Like, I hadn't played rep ball, so this opportunity, the deafness had given me an opportunity, like, you know, obviously I would never have had. And then, so I did, I joined the Australian team 2006, and then the last Deaf Olympics was in 2009. And then 2010, I stepped down. Like, I got married, and I felt like, you know, it wasn't just the games on the court, it was like the fundraising, and, you know, there was a lot of input from family and friends, and I just felt like, you know, like Jason and I wanted to start a family, so I decided to step down from the team. But and then since then I've kind of taken up running, and I don't play any team sports at the moment. I would like to play basketball again, and I've spoken to a few friends that are keen to join a team, but we just haven't made it happen yet. But
yeah, one of my favourite movies for a very cool reason is Blade, and have you watched Blade? Wesley Snipes, when he was still acting. He dabbles in both worlds. He's half vampire, you know, he's half. Your story is kind of that as well. You once upon a time could hear, and you now are part of the deaf world. What's it like belonging to both worlds?
So there was a time where I felt like, so I don't know, we're going back to school here. We've got a Venn diagram where we've got the 2 circles. What's different about them and what's the same? And when I first lost my hearing, I felt like I was on the outside of that Venn diagram, looking, going, where do I even fit in? Like, it was really, that was like probably part of one of the biggest challenges for me, was just that that ideal of, you know, where do I belong kind of thing. Like, because I had all my life before with all my friends and my family, and, you know, no one else had changed, but then obviously a lot had changed for those really close to me as well. And then this brand new deaf world that, you know, I essentially didn't really know much about at all, but slowly, you know, got myself in there. So there was a bit of time where, you know, I was on the outside of that Venn diagram going, where, you know, survival.
Yeah.
And then I just jumped straight into the middle.
Yeah,
I skipped the outside, went straight to the middle. I thought that's the only way that I can make this journey work. So people say, oh, if you could change it, would you change it? And I say no, like, you know, because, like, what's happened has given me my life, and that's my life. I can't imagine it not being that way.
Was that always the case? Did you need to really work on that positive survivor outlook to the point where it doesn't creep in anymore? you just push on now and go, this is me, and I'm wrapped, and I am wrapped, and I'm having a great time. But every now and then, does it creep back in and just go, because you had a significant part of your life. It's not like a fleeting moment. It was a significant part of your life where it was different.
So yeah, like I feel like the hard part wasn't for very long.
Yes.
Most people would say, like, that I'm a pretty positive person, and I feel like that's just, they're the cards I got dealt. And I had professional help, like I saw a psychologist just to nut it out, talk about things, and years later I saw a psychologist about other things. Like there's always things that you can talk about with someone. But I feel like it's been quite a long time. Like I never feel like, oh, you've got that and I don't, or I just feel like it's my life now, like, and I've made it work. And, obviously the huge amount of support around me has made that happen. But I can't imagine it being any other way either, in the sense that, like for my mum and dad, like it must have been so hard for them. Like I heard stories years later as, things opened up and we shared them. And obviously there's people it could be in a similar situation to me without that support. So, and then, I've gone on and done some pretty big things, like, representing Australia and publishing my book, being able to share my story. Like I did a lot of, reading and stuff, and it's amazing how like reading someone else's story can help you. So then I was like, I want to be one of those people. And then I guess getting into education, dealing with children and teenagers, and it's like, I wish I knew that when I was younger, and being able to be like a role model in that sense. So it's been a long time. Like I couldn't even tell you when, like the last time I kind of felt down about it, because it's just me now. Anyone you ask, it's just, it's who I am.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to just do that for my girls as well. Like I just want to accept who I am. Like we love that they've got, like, a parent that's not like every other parent, like, and we hope that they've got friends that are like that, and, they can just see all that kind of thing and build resilience.
Was it important for people in your family and in your close circle to learn sign?
That's really interesting. All my like immediate family have tried it, but we all just talk.
Because you can.
I think that like it's just old habits. But then my husband Jason learnt level 1, 2, 3, 4 in the first year that we were together. So for him, he came into it when I'd already lost my hearing. But for the people that were already there, like the connection's quite different. So it's been that part of it has been really interesting. And like I teach Auslan now, I teach online classes and stuff. So, it's pretty much open to anyone. But I've never had a thought like, oh, I can't believe that person doesn't know sign language, or, I only talk with them. Again, it's just like that natural, the way that it is. Like, people are on my journey in different ways. And it was really nice. Like a few people went to the library and got books, like as soon as I lost my hearing. And, I've made so many friends through my deafness, through sign language, through my teaching. That's how I know Jano, who's, just the kindest person in the world.
She is.
So yeah, like that just, that just differs between kind of where you came into my journey, I guess. It feels like that.
How are we doing in the world sense? We talk about ableism. Is the world set up? Was there things that you were really embarrassed about that you didn't know about the deaf world that you now do know? How can is our world set up well for hearing impaired, for deaf people? Do we need to be better at setting up spaces that are safe, easy to get to, even down to signs on the door, having, you know what I mean? Like, is it difficult to be hearing impaired in this world, and do we need to work on getting better to make sure it's equal?
I guess like the difference between hearing in people. My opinion's like a bit different as
Sure.
well because I had hearing. Technology's amazing.
Yeah.
As we can see.
Yeah.
I feel like it depends on the situation and the person. So many more things, like just this week is a really good example. So we're using WebEx at school to have our meetings, which is good sometimes, not as great sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the start of lockdown last year, I had to visit the admin team and just say, can you please ask the people, like the staff, when this is more staff related, it's a much different situation when you're with the kids, but can you please ask the staff member who's talking to please turn on their video so we have access to be able to lip read as well, and like also when it came that time, pull down your masks. So now we see, like in the WebExes, whoever's talking brings down their mask, everyone else keeps their mask on.
Oh, wow.
So just there's definitely a lot of different things that, people don't know that, like I'm one of 2 deaf staff. So having deaf staff in a school obviously makes a big difference, or just people that have experience with deaf. And now this week, what I was going to say is I found out that with WebEx, they've created a captions option.
Oh, God.
So you can turn on captions, yeah. So that wasn't there last year. So obviously things are evolving where, in the media, having sign language interpreters there pretty much all the time, that's created a big awareness as well. So acoustics in a room are important, but I don't like go into a room and go, oh, I'm not going to sit in here because, the acoustics aren't right. So there's people that would advocate stronger than what I do. Sure. But like I always try and put myself in a good position so that I can access the language, however that is, whether that's like being able to see an interpreter or being nice and close to my left of the person that's talking. So yeah, it varies with the situation, but I feel like there's a lot evolving and like people are becoming a lot more aware of it, but it does take people like us to help those that don't know, like even like helping teachers, like teachers writing on the board with their face, they're like, and just do this and that, like if there's deaf students in the class, turn around, explain, then go to the board. Gotcha. Just those small things that like I definitely wouldn't have known, like everyone else.
I love it. Hey, that book,
now I do.
That book, we're excited. There's a fair few listeners that are saying they want to hear more about the book. Can you tell us about what came to the point in your life where you wanted to start writing a book, and where do you start? And what's the book title again?
Time to Soar: When Loss Becomes New Beginnings.
I love it. I'm going to put up a link if anyone wants to purchase it too. So tell us about the book. It's not very big. Oh, that's my kind of book. Yeah, it's good. Like I've had people say I sat and read it in one sitting, or, it didn't take me long. There's 9 chapters, introduction, the beginning, the weekend, hospital, the road to recovery, my new life, meeting my soulmate, living with deafness, dealing with loss and grief, here and beyond. So it's a real snapshot of my life. So a couple of years after 2002, when I lost my hearing, I was literally writing in a notebook, like, just as a reflective tool. And like, I was like, oh, I never want to forget what could happen. I think now that, it was probably a bit of a silly thing to say, but, there was detail that, I can't believe it's been 19 years. I would have said, in 20 years you might forget, but let's say another 40 years. So I just was writing, and then that kind of started to get bigger. And then the idea just was like, maybe I could write a book, but what am I going to do with this? Is it just a reflective tool? Yeah. And funnily enough, the salon that I was working in, Xavier Rudd came in to get his thumb acrylic for when he was playing guitar. And my dad had... Gold.
I know, bizarre. My dad is a builder and he'd build a house for him, so he knew like who I was and he knew what had happened.
Right.
This one day he was in the salon and he rang his publisher while he was on that, like rang a publisher while he was in the salon. Like he was like, yeah, you need to write a book, you know, whatever.
Wow.
The publisher didn't answer or, you know, nothing stemmed from that. But that was a bit like, oh, you know, maybe I do have a story that I can tell. And then another really good friend, Sally Martin, who I made a connection through Deaf Education. She knew a publishing consultant who works with independent publishers. So I just contacted her and I worked with her for 18 months. The first time I saw her, I just had like pages of nothing, you know, like just of words. Like there was no. So she, you know, each time we met, she'd send me off with, you know, you need to make this happen and, you know, we need to turn it into. So then once we had a bit of structure, I knew what I needed to do to turn it into, you know, the chapters. And so 18 months of, you know, back and forth and, you know, getting someone to take photos and then design a front cover. And so I've got my own like publishing name, so I can publish some other books if I want to. Cool. When I was buying this independently publishing is different, but when I was buying this barcode, I could buy one for $15 or 10 for $17. So I've got 9 other barcodes. So watch this space. the publishing journey itself was really, really amazing. And then on the 29th of April 2017, so 4 years ago, I had a book launch at the top level of the Geelong Library.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And not really knowing, you know, never, like I hadn't been to a book launch, but not knowing what that would look like and how that would even go. People were sitting on the floor. There was probably 200 people. Yeah, wow. mostly people I knew or that knew someone I knew. Like, you know, sure. Some people came that knew my twin sister that knew that I'd written the book. There was people that know me through Auslan, people, family, people from my old life, people from, you know, like I was absolutely blown away. It was amazing. I don't think it could have been any better.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
I just want to say here, I dedicated my book to 2 people just in here. So one to a really special friend who I met through Deaf Education, who is a really close friend of ours that we lost the year after I published my book, and also to my twin sister. And so, yeah, this is obviously a really, like, even though it's like, I guess, like a product, it's actually a really, like, huge part of my life.
Did you uncover anything or discover anything, I should say, when writing that book? Usually. Yeah,
so probably not so much writing the book, but when you say that, so in my book, I've used, my family have put like little inserts because there's parts of that, especially the weekend, and that parts of that story that like I didn't know. So that really helped to, you know, build the story. But in saying that, not so much when I was writing that book, but after losing my hearing, one time, I think it was probably like, you know, 2 years after, we were camping and I heard my dad telling someone else about, like, you know, this part of the story. And then like that would happen a few times, like, you know, people would be talking to me and then, you know, Jane would just throw in, you know, oh yeah, like as soon as someone came at hospital, we just, you know, we told Renee that we were just walking out, you know, so that they could, and they'd just walk out crying and they'd be like gone for an hour just crying. And obviously like that, all that stuff was, you know, hidden from me. So there was things that came out, like, but not so much, you know, with the book, but after that I just had no idea about, like, you know, some hospital, like, you know, doctor related stuff. And so, yeah, it was almost like I was there, but I wasn't. Like,
that's weird.
Bizarre.
You got twins. They say that you've got a real solid connection, maybe even more so than the standard sister combo.
Yeah.
Did that change at all when you lost your hearing?
So I know that there's lots of twin stories where like I've like seen them where or read about them where, you know, one might be in New South Wales and it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to call my twin.
Yeah.
Something, you know, bad's happened, and sure enough, that has. We haven't had anything like that, but like as kids, like I would fall over and like graze my knee, and then the next week Jane would do like exactly the same knee. Like we did that heaps where, you know, but then like I said, like I broke my collarbone in year 10 and Jane hasn't ever broken a bone, you know, so it's not like everything, but she found it really hard. She probably found it the hardest because, you know, it changed me so much. Like, you know, it was like a part of me had gone, like, you know, forever, which it had, but so it probably affected her the most, but I don't have any amazing twin telepathy stories. Sorry.
Sure.
Just the bond itself, you know, like it just, you know, you think you can't really get any closer, but it certainly did with our whole family. Like it made us heaps tighter.
Renee, I hope people grab the book. It's obviously going to be able to explain a lot more than we can in this 30 minutes. But you've got an incredible story. I'm amazed that we haven't crossed paths if you've lived in Geelong your whole life and you're a big basketball and a Cats fan too. Did you watch the game last night?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you watch the game last night? Watch us crush Port Adelaide?
Yeah, it was really good. I reckon Jezza was probably best on ground. He did well.
How good is he? Took over that third quarter. It's great. We've got lots of Cats fans in the house. This station is actually online, but it seems to only attract Geelong people. I don't know how this works. But I really appreciate you capping off Resilience Week, and you got such an impressive story, and it's beautiful.
Thanks for having me.
We could hear
it's good to be able to share it because, you know, you just never know what people have been through. And for anybody that wants to ask any more questions or connect with me, I've got a Renee D'Offay author page, so you probably share. People have probably seen it anyway. And I'm on Instagram as well. So if anybody, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone or, you know, share my story further. If anyone wants to get a copy of my book or anything like that, people can just reach out to me, and I'd be happy to chat again. It's been good.
Oh, nice. It's nice. I'd say this quite often. I'm really blessed to be able to sit there and by 8 o'clock, I've already spoken to someone and listened to an incredible, it's a really good start to the day. I know
absolutely.
The chat line's going quite hot as well, and people are just saying some great things. Jano's listening, cheering you on too, saying, love hearing your story. Alex says some amazing things too. The Fizz, thanks for sharing your inspiring story. Looking forward to the book. I've put the book link up there. Andy, thanks heaps, Renee. You're amazing. You're a champion. Anyone can do Renee's Auslan classes, by the way, too. And Kate says, great interview. How do people get in touch with you about your Auslan classes?
Yeah, so I share most of my classes on my social media. I don't have a website as such, but if you just share like my page or whatever with your stuff, and I've started following you, and that's where I share, but people can just send me a message via social media, or I can give you my email address too if that.
Go on, what's your email address?
RDO
Yep.
FFAY
Yep.
@gmail.com.
There we go. And I've just popped that in the chat. I'm going to play some Xavier Rudd in honour of that sharp thumb he's got. I can't believe he goes to a nail technician to get the thumb acrylic.
I don't know if he still does, but
we're going to say he does.
I've actually tried to contact him through social media. Like I want to send him a copy of my book.
Yes.
But I never get a response, and I don't know how. Dad just doesn't have his details anymore, so
I got someone.
Keep trying. Like I contacted Professor Graham Clark, who invented the cochlear implant, and sent him a signed copy of my book, and I'm pretty sure he got it, but I didn't hear anything back from him, but that's fine. So
yep,
like those kind of people that help to motivate me to write it.
I've got a contact for you. I hope, hopefully it works, but I'll give it a go.
Okay, cool.
To get onto Xavier.
Sweet.
Renee, have a ripping Friday and weekend. Thanks for finishing off the week for us. It's been awesome.
Thanks heaps, Troy.
You're a ledge.
See you again. Bye.